VikesNow. I am Tyler Ireland. With me today is Brevan, Bane, and Silas Bobendrier. I hope I got that right. Fellas, how are we doing today?
Pretty good.
Good, good. Thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. So let's dive right into it here. Uh, there's been, a lot of talk about TJ Hockenson and how he's likely to miss the beginning of the season. The question now is, should the Vikings pursue another tight end in free agency or the draft? Brev, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, you don't really want to go scorched earth and replace like TJ as a whole just because he might be gone the first month. And I guess it's not even a guarantee that he's going to be gone for the entire first month, but you really don't want to go scorched earth and overreact and just go give out some tight end contract or spend a high draft pick on a tight end when you're in that situation. So I think that coupled with the fact that Johnny Munt is an unrestricted free agent who probably should do something, whether that's re-sign Munt, next man up, have Oliver at starting tight end, however well that would go. Whether it's re-sign Munt, spend a late pick on a tight end just to get somebody else in the room. If you don't want to give Munt the 1, 2, or 3 mil he's probably worth on the open market, or a guy like Adam Troutman or Drew Sample, really cheap free agent pickup. You got to do something because you're only going to have 1 or 2 tight ends on the roster to start the season. But something's got to be done, but just don't overreact.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell once referred to Munt as the best number 3 tight end in the league. So you could make a good argument of, well, we signed Josh Oliver to a decent contract last offseason. He's got some receiving ability that he showed in college, and maybe we bring back Munt, and who knows, maybe Nick Muse can be serviceable as a tight end 3. And then Munt is your second guy, and Oliver's tight end 1. Um, Personally, for me, I wouldn't want to invest a significant amount of money to get one of those top tight ends. I feel like it's just not the best use of the cap, given that Hawkinson's only going to be out for like a month. So, and when he comes back, he's going to get like 7 to 10 targets a game. He's just, such a pivotal part of our offense. Silas, what are your thoughts on this?
You're not going to be able to replace TJ Hawkinson's talent, nor the flexibility that he has to line up at any receiver position or as an inline blocker. I mean, you've got Josh Oliver, who can function very well as a blocking tight end and has the ability to get out in the passing game. And then you've got a player like Johnny Munt, who is an unrestricted free agent, but is more of a pass catcher at tight end while also being a solid blocker. If the Vikings were to make a move, I'd say that it should just be a simple re-sign of Johnny Munt. I don't believe that a ton of resources need to be allocated to the position. He's not going to miss a lot of time. And ultimately, it would probably be a just in general a misallocation of resources that are very limited at the time.
Yeah, it all sounds like we're Munsters here. We all like the idea of Johnny Munt. Why not just bring him back? Now, that kind of leads us to our next topic here, which might be a bit more controversial. Kwesi was seen on the field at the Senior Bowl watching Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. practice. So just between those two guys, how high or low are you on those two quarterback prospects? Silas, I'll start with you.
Nix's growth was evident after his transfer to Oregon. He struggled in his time at Auburn, whether it was with processing, footwork, or just within definitely a less talented team. The offensive scheme that Oregon runs does some of the work for Nix, not to say that he doesn't have to do a ton of processing, but he also has a lot of talent around him. He's got good arm strength. He can make good off target throws, play out of structure pretty well. But then, I mean, a high percentage of his passes this year were screen passes, a unbelievable amount of yards were accrued off of screen passes. His production is not as impressive when you look at the context in which it was created. And as for Michael Penix Jr., his age, injury history, and the surrounding talent just really kind of make it difficult to trust him as a prospect. He's got 3 top 80 receivers in the class. One of them is a top 10 pick, very likely. He's got another potential first rounder. And, he's got a good offensive line. What is it? I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I believe it starts with an F. He's regarded as a potential first round pick if I'm thinking of the correct player. And I believe
Yeah,
he's a
I think it's like Falashu or something. We're botching this really hard in terms of the exact player. We're
yeah.
not scouts here, but yeah, there is I believe Washington has a top offensive line prospect, as you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot of talent around him. And admittedly, I have not done QB evaluations yet, so I don't really have a firm opinion, but I do not trust them immediately as prospects.
Yeah, for me, I'm not a huge fan of either Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. Bo Nix was in that Oregon system where they did a lot of things for him as far as getting the ball out quickly to his playmakers, and it's just kind of like a cheesy system that won't translate to NFL production. But I do slightly disagree on your Penix take where, yes, he had a ton of talent around him at Washington, but he was also asked to pass the ball quite a bit in a pro style offense. And I'm not saying that Penix is going to be like the next Mahomes or Josh Allen. I don't think he has that much upside, and the injuries are really concerning to me. However, I think he's a higher floor prospect, injuries aside. Like at his lowest, you're looking at like a Derek Carr with the Saints this year, and at your highest, you're looking at like borderline MVP level Tua Tagovailoa, like earlier this season when he was just tearing defenses apart. And of course, you've got that left-handed quarterback comparison as well. So between the two, I'd prefer Penix, but I'm a huge proponent of going up to try and trade up and get your guy if you're the Vikings. Brev, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I should preface it with saying I don't want either of these guys at pick 11 at least. A trade down would be an ideal scenario to land either of them. If we are choosing between the two, because realistically, of course, you don't have a shot at the top three. I guess Jaden Daniels, maybe you can trade up to get, but if you got to choose between the two, I would probably go with Knicks. I'd probably go against your Penix opinion. For sure, like everything you guys have said is 100% true, and I don't disagree with any of it. Just Knicks definitely, like Silas brought up the screen game. He had the most yards on screen passes in the country by like a wide margin. So, but he did prove he could kind of go away from the screen game, like looking away on non-screen passes. He threw 72%. He threw 3,700 yards, 38 touchdowns to 3 picks, 20 big time throws, 93.3 PFF passing grade. So I think Knicks would definitely be. Kevin O'Connell would kind of scare me because he has a lot of long developing pass concepts. And Bo Nix, again, like you guys hit the nail on the head, benefited a lot from the quick game and throwing short. But out of the two, I'd take Knicks. I guess age is definitely a concern for both of them. I think Knicks is the better prospect. Maybe Penix is the higher ceiling, but again, the age, the injury history, the roster around him, I think Knicks would just be the safer option.
Yeah, and to Bo Nix's credit as well, it feels like with every Oregon quarterback that comes out, you look at like Mariota and it's like, but the Oregon system, and then they fell into the same trap with Herbert where it was like, but the Oregon system, and Herbert turned out to be really good. And there's a chance that Bo Nix is capable of doing a whole lot more than people are giving him credit for. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's one of those things like with all these quarterbacks, you can say the system's helping them. They've got a team around them to some capacity, but no, you're
the
100%
Kevin
right.
O'Connell system is helping Kirk Cousins, I say,
Yeah, that's what it
right?
is. Yeah.
Um, Kind of alluded to this, earlier, but, trading up into the top three, if you were the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings here, would you trade up into the top three? Yes or no? And if yes, how much are you willing to give up? Silas, I will start with you.
This is a great question. I love this one. I'm a firm believer in go get your guy. If you have a guy that you believe is going to be able to lead your NFL franchise, you have to be willing to give up whatever it takes to get him, I think, in a lot of circumstances, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. If it comes to like a Drake May or Caleb Williams type of prospect, if the Vikings were to trade up for them this year into the top three, we'd probably be looking at giving up a couple of first rounders and multiple second rounders, along with maybe a player or late round picks, and we'd probably get, one, two, or three, and then a late round this year, or maybe mid round next year. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like you have to sell a lot when you're going up to get a prospect like that, especially with the QBs that we have this year, when there are a lot of very talented quarterbacks that make this class very interesting and very deep. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that I don't think that there was a lot that I would be upset with if we were to trade up. And I would advocate for trading up if they do believe that there's a quarterback that they think can lead this team for the next decade to decade and a half.
I alluded to my point earlier, but I'm all about getting up to the top three to get your guy, because you really only have one shot at getting that franchise quarterback if you're Kwesi. Like, if you screw this up, you're getting fired. Like, people sort of criticize the Vikings. I believe it was Chris Sims last year when we drafted Jordan Addison over Will Levis. There was a lot of criticism of that being the safe pick, that they should have used that first round pick to draft a quarterback, either Levis or Hendon Hooker. But it turns out Jordan Addison is a dang good football player, and I don't think anyone in Vikings land is regretting that decision. So if I'm the Vikings, I really want to make sure that you draft someone you absolutely love. Brev, would you rather trade into the top three, get your guy, sell the farm, so to speak, or are you a bit more hesitant?
I'm pretty hesitant. Anytime you're talking about that much compensation that you'd have to give up in the current state of the team, you look at the offense and yeah, it's kind of loaded with some Lamborghinis and Maseratis, but defensively, this team has a couple 2000 Ford Focuses at the cornerback position, and I know drafting cornerback is super taboo for the Minnesota Vikings to do, but and I'm not saying I want them to draft a cornerback. Just I think defensively, this team would benefit much more from a stick and pick, or even a Kwesi trade down, which I know again is kind of taboo at this point after how 2022 went. Just thinking like if he's your guy, go get him 100%. I have no choice but to sit here in this chair and watch this regime go after their guy. And it would rock. It would be sick. I would be excited to see Jaden Daniels edits from JV Swaps on Twitter. But I don't know. Just if you want to win now, you look at the landscape of the NFC. Of course, the Lions are trending up. The Eagles are kind of dysfunctional. The 49ers, they've got some decisions to make with their personnel coming up in the next few years. So they very well could be on the way out. But they'll probably still be around. But I don't know. Just I think with the state of the team, if you want to win now, it sucks because this team is always kicking the can on drafting quarterback of the future. They've been doing it since they drafted Fran Tarkenton. But I don't know. If you want to go win now, and I think you can go win now in this NFC, I think you stick and pick, take the best defensive player, learn from your mistakes 2 years ago, Kwesi, please, for the love of God, and go after it.
Yeah, for sure. And just to clarify here, Brev, if we draft a best player available or defensive player at 11, or we trade down, doesn't really matter the outcome, but are you for keeping Kirk Cousins in that situation? Or is it going to be more of a bridge quarterback thing where you just get a guy who's cheaper?
I mean, it's hard to say I'd be against the Cousins extension. I think we might be a little overreactionary, I guess is the word, to what that injury is going to do to Kirk. I don't think it's going to affect Kirk that much. It's not going to affect his style of play. Maybe it'll make him more timid. Maybe he'll clench his teeth a little bit more. That really makes me mad when I watch him do that on national TV. But It's hard to say it'd be against extending Kirk. I mean, he's been. I'm not saying he is a top 5, top 10 quarterback, but he's played as a top 10 quarterback the last couple of years, and you can't convince me he wasn't going to be in the MVP race last year if he didn't get hurt. I mean, he was putting up stupid numbers, and this is a pretty Mickey Mouse MVP this year that they're giving out to whatever quarterback is going to win it. So hard to say I'd be against it. Um, I'm never going to say no to extending a top 10, top 12 quarterback.
Yeah, do not let the Cinnabon Santana hear your Kirk Cousins in the top 5, top 10 take. But I want to get over to the last topic here, which is a bit of a throwaway. I guess we have the Pro Bowl coming up, which, who cares? Part of me is wondering, like, okay, who cares about the Pro Bowl? But we might as well talk about it at least once. At the Pro Bowl, you have those dodgeball games, and the Vikings have 3 Pro Bowlers this year: Daniil Hunter, CJ Ham, and Andrew DePaola. Probably botched that. Sorry, Andrew. Who is most likely out of those 3 to win at dodgeball? Uh, Silas, I will start with you.
I gotta say, Daniil, I cannot pick against him. You know what I mean? He's an athletic freak. He's huge. And yeah, I mean, that makes him a bigger target, but I don't know. I would find it hard to bet against him. I think CJ Ham would do pretty well. And I think, DePaola would surprise, I guess, maybe. I don't know if he'd be many people's first pick, but I do think that he'd be pretty good at it too. I actually would really love to see this scenario play out, but, I'm going to pick Daniil Hunter.
Yeah, for me personally, I think there's a pretty good case for Andrew winning this. I think he's, an incredibly smart player as a long snapper. And I think he could come in with a very strategic approach. Let the star players frantically run to the center line to get the balls and, try and target each other. If you see Myles Garrett on the opposite side, you're going to want to get him out, right? I mean, that guy's built like a Hulk. But no one's going to be targeting the nearly bald Andrew DePaola. So you can kind of sit back, relax, assess your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, take calculated risks, throw the ball at people who are distracted with other, bigger name players. And, it's a passive and safe approach, but I believe it's one to where he can win the entire thing. If he's careful and he's aggressive when he needs to be, but just kind of sits in the shadows, he might be the last man standing. Brev, how about you?
The way I'm looking at it is I'm going off evidence, and evidence tells us that Daniil Hunter is not a real human being. Just that dude's biceps are bigger than my head. Uh, with that being said, in a physical competition showdown, that would make you think that Daniil Hunter would be my pick, I guess. But going based off evidence, CJ Ham can catch the ball very effectively. Showed us that in what was it, 2021 against Baltimore. That's sick ass catch on the sideline. When he scores touchdowns, he spikes the ball really, I mean, like really hard. So he can catch and he can throw. If he can get past the mental barrier of having to throw something at Daniil Hunter, because if I had to throw something at Daniil Hunter, I'd apologize profusely. I don't care if I'm throwing a stuffed animal at the guy. But if he can get past that, I think CJ Ham would be the slam dunk pick. I don't know what Andrew. I guess I think it's DePaula. That sounds right. Um, yeah, I guess he could kind of sneak through. There'd be 2 alpha males going one on one. No disrespect to Andrew. He's a sick long snapper, but no, I got to go CJ Ham based off what we've seen on the field.
Yeah, in regards to throwing the ball Daniil Hunter's way, keep in mind he's got a larger hitbox. I mean, have you seen that guy's arm length? I mean, it's insane.
Yep.
So, if you're Daniil Hunter, you're going to be the easiest guy to hit.
You're
So,
you're trying to throw a dodgeball at a Ford F-150. Like
exactly.
you're gonna hit him.
Yeah, of course. So, CJ Ham, the hammer, he might have a shot to win the whole thing. We will see. I believe the Pro Bowl is this weekend here in Orlando in Central Florida. I'm the resident Florida man of VikesNow, so I might go out there. We'll see. But Silas, Brev, thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of VikesNow. We will see you both next week.